Okay, so last time we articulated that student performance was very variable. And not just variable between one student and another, but variable in one student's performance in some ways and performance in other ways. And that isn't in itself helpful. That was very vague. Currently, we've discovered an interesting phenomenon, but so far, as of 30 seconds ago, we don't really have the specific vocabulary to make anything useful of that discovery. And that's sort of what I thought about over the winter break. Has anyone really mapped out the different areas of intelligence? Actually, yeah, luckily people have done that before. One of them was Aristotle. Usually a good starting point. At least in the Western philosophical tradition, Aristotle invented a lot of things. He didn't always get something right, but he was often the guy who got the ball rolling. And one of his favorite things to do was to categorize things. Now it sounds basic and pedantic, but someone had to be the guy to invent these basic things, and a lot of the time it was him. So, what did Aristotle have to say about intelligence? He, as usual, he liked the number 3. He broke it up into 3 things: phronesis, techne, and episteme. Greek words. This is English class. Okay, well, so what did he mean by those 3 things? Let's start with the most accessible one, techne. Luckily, it has a very similar word in English. Technology, technical skill. Yeah, technical skill. And modern education very much focuses on increasing students' technical skills, helping them learn more facts and learn how to make things. Modern education is very techne focused, and it basically does a good job of that, or at least sufficiently good of a job that chances are I'm not going to contribute to improving on it. But then again, what are those other 2 areas of intelligence that Aristotle talks about? Well, there's phronesis and episteme. What's that? From phronesis, we get the word prudence. A little bit of a stretch, but Greek and English are pretty far apart. It's common sense, practical wisdom. An example of a deficit of prudence would be the fact that I didn't know that using the dandelions as backfill violated a major goal of the project, getting rid of dandelions. Not knowing that would be an example of a deficit of phronesis. Whereas a person who has good phronesis would know whether something's a good idea or not. A great quote about this comes from Jurassic Park. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe your scientists were so focused on whether they could do it that they didn't stop to think whether or not they should? That's a question about phronesis, and saying that the people who invented Jurassic Park were too focused on the technical achievement of resurrecting dinosaurs, and they just focused on that techne and didn't think at all whether or not having a T-Rex walking around would actually be a good idea, or whether it would, like, eat the scientist or something. Well, maybe I shouldn't do this because once I accomplish this technical feat, my creation will eat me. That's a matter of phronesis. A lot of us lack phronesis. But we at least know the word exists. Okay, so what's the third one? Episteme. This one is about theory and knowing how stuff fits together in concept. Like, a great example of that is my claim to not have much phronesis. However, even though I've still been talking about it, I've still been using the word all over, so I have no common sense, but I still know the word common sense. What I do have there is a mental blueprint of all the possibilities. Having a good mental blueprint of all the possibilities, not necessarily knowing how a specific machine technically works, but knowing the idea of it. Maybe not having phronesis myself, but knowing what the word describes. That is episteme. In English, the only word related to that we have is epistemology. Big word, philosophical word. Actually, it's sort of important. But we'll get to epistemology later. Later on, it'll become important and obvious, but you can almost forget about it now. So Aristotle had these three aspects of intelligence: phronesis, episteme, and techne. Common sense, imagination and ability to theorize, and then the technical focus. So he had other stuff out there, in addition to and besides technical focus. And that gives some insight into what we were seeing on the exam performance, where I thought I was going to get, where I sort of told people, hey, you can give me a one-sentence answer if it's the exact right one, and laid out this sentence that at least alluded to all the big ideas we touched on. But instead, I got these, what looked like memorized encyclopedia paragraphs. It seems that what the students had was great technique. Whether what they lacked was phronesis or episteme, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they lacked the common sense to notice that I was giving them an easy way out. Or maybe they knew I was trying to help, they had the phronesis, but my easy way out involved a lot of episteme, imagination, and theory, and that was the hard part. I'm not exactly sure which one, phronesis or episteme, was lacking, but it's clear that they, instead of using either of those, they applied the tool that they had, great technique, which resulted in sometimes a mismatch between the way I thought would be easy to answer the questions and the ways that I saw people approaching the questions. With Aristotle's tripartite idea of intelligence, now we sort of have a feel for the mental landscape of where the students are, where they're stronger than me, and where there is the most room for improvement. Or at least the highest probability that I can actually be of significant help. Okay, well, we'll do Bloom's taxonomy next time. Bloom's taxonomy's worthwhile too. He's worthwhile as Aristotle. We'll give him his own video.